Who is considered more dangerous? Marvel's Juggernaut or DC's Doomsday? Superpowered characters have always been the center of attention, not only because of their overwhelming power, but also because of the level of danger they pose. Juggernaut and Doomsday are two of the most terrifying characters in the superhero genre. Both possess near-limitless physical strength, incredible durability, and reputations as unstoppable machines of destruction. However, who is more dangerous? Juggernaut, real name Cain Marko, is a character in the Marvel Universe, empowered by the Crimson Gem of Cyttorak, a magical artifact that grants him superhuman strength, near-invulnerability, and an unstoppable body. He is often portrayed as a machine of destruction, with the ability to crash through any obstacle once set in motion. However, Juggernaut retains his human nature, with emotions, motivations, and sometimes conflicting psychology. Doomsday, on the other hand, is a creature created in a laboratory on the planet Krypton with the purpose of being the ultimate weapon. He is the embodiment of destruction, with no other purpose than to destroy everything in his path. Doomsday's evolutionary adaptability makes him a threat that cannot be completely destroyed, as each time he is defeated, he returns stronger and immune to the method that defeated him. One of the elements that makes Doomsday so terrifying is his adaptive resistance. Unlike other characters, Doomsday is not only able to withstand powerful attacks, but has also evolved to become immune to any method that has ever been used to defeat him. In the famous storyline, The Death of Superman, 1992, Doomsday confronted Superman and defeated him in a brutal battle, resulting in the deaths of both. However, after being presumed dead, Doomsday returned, stronger than ever, with the ability to resist everything that had previously defeated him. This ability stems from Doomsday's origins. He was created by the Kryptonian scientist Bertrand through a process of forced evolution. Over thousands of years, Doomsday was killed and reborn repeatedly, each time evolving to become stronger and immune to the cause of his previous death. This means that there is no way to permanently destroy Doomsday. Even when thrown into extreme environments like hell or outer space, he still finds a way to come back. Meanwhile, Juggernaut also possesses near-invincible resistance thanks to the power of the Crimson Gem of Cyttorak. He can withstand powerful physical attacks, from Hulk's fists to massive energy blasts. However, Juggernaut's resistance has its limits. He cannot automatically adapt or evolve to resist new forms of attack. For example, in Uncanny X-Men number 183-1984, Juggernaut was defeated by Spider-Man when he was lured into a pool of wet cement, trapping him. This shows that while Juggernaut is nearly invincible in normal physical situations, he can still be disabled through clever tactics or special environments. Doomsday's adaptive defenses far surpass Juggernaut's N20S stammer. While Juggernaut can be temporarily disabled through creative means, Doomsday not only survives, but also becomes stronger with each defeat. This makes him a nearly unstoppable threat in the long run. With Doomsday, this ability is tied to his adaptive resistance. Whenever a tactic is used to defeat Doomsday, he not only becomes immune to it in the future, but also develops countermeasures to counter similar tactics. For example, in Superman, Doomsday, Hunter, Prey, 1994, after being sent to the end of time by Superman and destroyed by entropy, Doomsday still manages to return, showing that his adaptability is not limited by physical or supernatural concepts. In contrast, the Juggernaut does not have the same adaptive ability. He relies on raw strength and the invincibility granted by the Crimson Gem. However, as mentioned, the Juggernaut can be defeated using less direct tactics. In World War Hulk, 2007, the Hulk manages to defeat the Juggernaut not through physical strength, but by exploiting his lack of flexibility in combat. This shows that, despite Juggernaut's immense power, he can still be overcome by intelligent and creative opponents. Furthermore, Juggernaut is still a human being with a mind and emotions. In many cases, he can be persuaded or distracted by moralistic words or actions. For example, in X-Men, Legacy number 2, 192008, Juggernaut showed hesitation when faced with situations involving children or innocent people, showing that he is not completely an emotionless destruction machine. Doomsday, even though he developed a certain level of intelligence in later versions, still retains his nature as a creature driven by destruction. In Superman, Doomsday, 2007, when he begins to show consciousness and the ability to communicate, this does not diminish his destructive instincts. Instead, Doomsday's new intelligence makes him more dangerous, as he can plan and act with calculation, rather than relying solely on instinct. The Juggernaut, while a villain in many cases, is not always motivated by wanton destruction. As a human, Cain Marko has personal motivations, often related to hatred for his brother Charles Xavier, or a desire to prove his power. However, he has also shown moments of humanity, such as when he refuses to harm children or when he is convinced by moral values. In Amazing X-Men number 192015, the Juggernaut even cooperates with the X-Men on several occasions, showing that he is not entirely an uncontrollable threat. In contrast, Doomsday was created for the sole purpose of destruction. In early versions, he had no consciousness or personal motivations, being merely a killing machine. Even when he develops intelligence in later storylines, such as Superman, the Man of Steel, number 171992, Doomsday retains his destructive instincts. A notable example is when he encounters a child. Instead of showing compassion, Doomsday still acts on his destructive instincts, showing a complete lack of compassion. However, Doomsday may no longer be driven purely by a desire to destroy. If this is true, then his level of danger may be somewhat reduced, as a rational and communicative being could be persuaded or negotiated with in some situations. However, even with his new intelligence, Doomsday still retains his nature as a being driven by destruction, and this makes him more dangerous than the Juggernaut, who may be influenced by emotions or morality. Both Juggernaut and Doomsday are among the most powerful characters in their respective universes. Juggernaut, thanks to the Crimson Gem, possesses near-infinite physical strength when moving. He can punch through anything from steel walls to rocky mountains, and has gone toe-to-toe with powerful characters like the Hulk, Thor, and Colossus. In Incredible Hulk number 4021993, Juggernaut demonstrated his strength and durability by going toe-to-toe with the Hulk without being harmed. However, Doomsday is on another level. Not only does he possess superior physical strength, but he also has the ability to grow stronger with each rebirth. In the death of Superman, Doomsday defeated the entire Justice League, including characters like Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, and the Flash, before defeating Superman. His strength lies not only in his muscles, but also in his ability to adapt, making him nearly unbeatable in a prolonged fight. Even hell itself cannot hold Doomsday. In Superman, Doomsday. Hunter, prey. Doomsday has escaped from the most extreme environments, including supernatural dimensions. This shows that his powers transcend both physical and supernatural limitations, while Juggernaut, while powerful, is still bound by the rules of the Crimson Gem and can be neutralized by stripping away his power source. Juggernaut, despite being a destructive machine, can still be restrained by non-directive means. As mentioned, he has been trapped in cement or defeated through psychological manipulation. Furthermore, since Juggernaut is a human, he can be persuaded or influenced by personal relationships, as in storylines involving Charles Xavier. Doomsday, on the other hand, is a nearly uncontainable being. In the death of Superman, Superman had to sacrifice his life to temporarily stop Doomsday, but even that was not enough to permanently destroy him. The original story emphasized that even Superman had to send Doomsday to the end of time to stop him, and even in that situation, Doomsday returned. His ability to escape the most extreme environments, combined with his increasing intelligence, makes Doomsday a threat that cannot be controlled by conventional means. In Hunter, Prey, Superman used a teleportation machine to send Doomsday to the end of time, where entropy would destroy everything. However, Doomsday still managed to return, showing that his adaptability transcends both physical and supernatural concepts. Furthermore, in later versions, such as Superman, the Man of Steel number 171992, Doomsday began to develop intelligence, allowing him to plan and act with calculation. This made him even more dangerous, as a being with both unlimited power and the ability to think strategically was a threat not to be taken lightly. Can provide a comprehensive assessment of how dangerous Juggernaut and Doomsday are. Each element shows a clear difference between the two characters, with Doomsday consistently outperforming Juggernaut in most aspects. In terms of adaptive resistance, Doomsday possesses a unique ability to evolve, allowing him to become immune to any method that has ever been used to defeat him. This is demonstrated in storylines such as the death of Superman and Hunter Prey, where he returns after each defeat, stronger and more difficult to deal with. Juggernaut, despite his near-absolute resistance due to the Crimson Gem, cannot automatically adapt to new forms of attack, making him more vulnerable to incapacitation in certain situations. In terms of adaptive countermeasures, Doomsday continues to have the upper hand with his ability to learn and develop tactics to counter the methods used against him. Meanwhile, Juggernaut often relies on raw strength and lacks flexibility in combat, as shown in his battles with Spider-Man or the Hulk. Juggernaut's human nature also makes him susceptible to psychological factors, while Doomsday, even as he develops intelligence, retains his destructive instinct as his primary motivation. In terms of his desire to destroy, Doomsday was created for the sole purpose of destruction, and even as he develops intelligence, this nature remains unchanged. Juggernaut, on the other hand, has moments of humanity and can be persuaded or swayed by moral values. This reduces his level of danger in certain situations, especially when compared to Doomsday's determination to destroy. In terms of overwhelming strength, both characters are among the top in their universes, but Doomsday has the advantage due to his ability to increase his strength with each regeneration. Not only is he physically strong, but he is also capable of overcoming supernatural limitations, as shown when he escaped from Hell. Juggernaut, despite his incredible power, is still bound by the rules of the Crimson Gem and can be neutralized by stripping him of his power source. Finally, in terms of his unstoppable ability, Doomsday is a nearly uncontrollable threat, with the ability to come back after any attempt to stop him. Juggernaut, while difficult to defeat in physical situations, can still be trapped or persuaded, reducing his long-term threat level. With all these factors in mind, it can be concluded that Doomsday is indeed a greater threat than Juggernaut. However, the claim that Doomsday is 50 times more dangerous may be an exaggeration. Juggernaut can be a formidable threat in smaller-scale conflicts, such as when facing the X-Men or individual heroes. However, Doomsday represents a threat on a cosmic scale, with the potential to threaten entire superhero teams and even supernatural entities. It is safe to say that Doomsday is about 10 to 20 times more dangerous than Juggernaut, given his adaptability, superior strength, and unbridled nature. However, the 100 times figure can be interpreted as a way to emphasize the difference in danger between the two characters, especially when considering Doomsday's infinite evolution.